Welcome to our weekly segment, Old Town Mariposa with Bob Borchard. Bob, who's our guest today?
Our guest today, well,
Welcome, by the way.
How you doing? This is Brian Bullis.
Brian Bullis.
Brian Bullis is a very special friend of mine. Goes back many, many years. In fact, him and his dad were friends of mine. When I was a planning director in Mariposa, Brian's dad was involved in almost everything that had to do with planning and everything else in Mariposa County.
School board, farm bureau, you name it. Dad
Right.
spent.
Brian has pretty deep roots in Mariposa. He's a fair manager, of course, and that's what this show is going to be about. But his granddad, great-granddad,
My granddad.
was a pioneer settler in Bagby and a gold miner.
I'll be darned.
And, well,
Also worked on the YB Railroad.
As you come here week after week, Bob, we find many stories of multi-generational Mariposa residents.
well, there's a lot of roots there.
Yeah.
I'm not multi-generational in Mariposa, but there are some people with, and I think that's what adds to the character and the flavor of our community, and that's why I have fun doing this. I get to know people better that I've known for 30 years.
Like getting them on the show and
Getting them on the show, and
dragging
listening
the
to
facts
story.
out of them.
Right.
Is that the 31st Agriculture District?
Yes, Mariposa Fair, 35-A.
Mariposa Fair. So you call it County Fair?
It's a state agency, but it's our county exposition center, it's our community center, cultural center.
So it's a year-round
It's
facility.
a year-round event. Our annual usage is about 230,000 people throughout the year.
Wow.
30,000 people visit our fair every year, and it's pretty good for a community where there's only 17,000 in the whole county.
And when is that fair?
It's Labor Day weekend,
Oh.
August 29th through September 1st.
So the sun's out and
We're going
No snow.
We're going to do a special show on that
fair.
because it's a big deal.
yeah.
It's homecoming in Mariposa. But what we want to talk about today is fundraising event, Sausage and Suds, and there's a real story that goes with this. And I thought, well, I talked with Brian a little bit about it. I thought it would be helpful for people to understand how the organization of a fair works, how it's funded, and the contributions that a community group makes to our fair with respect to our Boosters Club. Go,
Well, a
Brian.
little bit of our history. We've been in business for 76 years,
Oh my gosh.
and we were
Everything in Mariposa is, 100 years this, 50 years that.
Well, we have traditions.
You've been around a while.
we're a state-owned facility, state property. State owns the buildings, state regulates us, but we're going on our third year with no state funding. So state funding made up about 20% of our annual budget. We are allowed to operate as long as we stay in the black, and we have been doing that by budget cuts, and we're also pulling money out of our savings to balance the budget every year,
Out of your reserve?
out of our
Yeah.
reserve.
So the state says you have to stay in the black, and then the state also takes away your funding at the same time.
Yeah, and they mandate us to do certain things, and then they send us a bill for mandating that we do this specific reporting that does nothing for our business.
And is this why you're doing the fundraiser?
The Friends
Part
of
of it.
the Friends of the Fair was started 3 years ago when the budget was the funding was eliminated, and it's just not Mariposa Fairgrounds; it's the whole fair industry. All 72 fairs in California.
Every
are the
fair
same.
in California got cut to zero.
Zero.
Wow.
The fair industry is a very important part of the state's economy. For every dollar that the state would give the fair industry, we would give them back $4 in sales tax revenue through the events that we hold on our fairgrounds. It's an economic engine, and it's a very important part of our culture and history of California. So we started the Friends of the Fair, which was our fundraising arm. A group of very concerned citizens stepped forward. We formed a board. We started a few fundraising activities. We have over 300 members in the Friends of the Fair. One of our major events is the Sausage and Suds event. It's June 28th. It's coming Saturday.
Coming right up Saturday. Now, I know what sausage is. What's the Suds all about?
We have it's beer tasting. It's sausage tasting and beer tasting.
Is it all microbrews or craft beer?
Craft beers, yep.
From Mariposa or all over the state?
All over the state.
And will it be a competition?
No competition. We do have a silent auction.
When I say competition, I mean who could drink the most?
Well, there is that.
No,
We have
Not like that.
we're all connoisseurs. We don't-
Connoisseurs.
And we promote safe drinking. We have the Deputy Sheriff Association. They operate they'll give you a ride home or a ride into town to your hotel. So a lot of people,
But if the word could get out, there's a lot of people from the valley who love the craft beers and love to sample the craft beers. This is a good chance. That's a lot of different craft beers will be there.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's,
And it complements the whole weekend. And when we talk about this, first off, what Brian operates is the only RV park in the immediate vicinity of Mariposa.
150 hookups, plenty of room.
And that's
And-
year-round too?
Yes.
And,
What about when it snows? You still can get in there?
Yeah. We're above the snow and below the fog.
I see.
We get a little dusting of snow, but it's gone in
Okay,
an hour or
okay.
two.
And so there's a lot of activities. So this is a weekend event, and it just complements everything else that's going on. I'll talk a little bit later about our Music on the Green event, but I want to focus in on what our citizens are doing with respect to fundraising and how this all fits together in a way that we've kept a community institution alive in Mariposa, and the fairgrounds represent something much more than a 3-day fair during a holiday. This is a cultural center for our whole community. We have events that like the Miwoks and the
powwow.
The powwow.
That's at the fairground too?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the picture's coming up right now, I think. But we also have the State Mining and Mineral Museum.
Do you have that powwow picture? And that's every year for,
Yep, Mother's Day weekend, first weekend in May.
And we talked about that on the show earlier. But I think what I'm trying to stress is that that the fairgrounds itself is a cultural and a community center for a lot of activities. It's not just a fair and exposition
the
center.
3-day fair is important, but the fairgrounds, that's for the whole year round.
Yes.
All year round, we're not only the cultural center and the community center, we're also the emergency evacuation center. If a fire breaks out or any type of emergency, we are utilized extensively for the base camp operations to rectify any situation.
Well, my question is, how do you stay in operation? The state cut their funds, I guess, through fundraisers and other things like that.
Yeah, the Friends of the Fair was quickly brought together when the funding was cut by concerned citizens, and it was heartwarming, the community outpour that come and help out the fairgrounds. And they knew that it was going to be a challenge keeping the facility maintained. So basically their funds are there to help me keep the place looking good and operational and safe and clean, and we've succeeded in doing that. We were hoping, part of the governor's plan, we were hoping when he cut funding was he would lease fairgrounds facilities back to nonprofits or the counties, because his vision was to turn fairs over to local control. He's never carried out on that vision.
The state's retained ownership
Yeah.
and said, you guys maintain our buildings, our facilities, we're going to own it.
We insure it, we maintain it.
Yeah.
We're
Wow.
very good caretakers of state property with zero funds.
Well, the state has gone through some tough times. Counties have, cities have, personal, we have too. But is it, now that the state's recovering, is there any hope for the fairs?
No, there hasn't. The budget was just signed, no fair funding in this budget either.
And no effort to transfer the ownership or actual management, administration of the fairs back to local control. This is an issue that concerns myself and a lot of people, I think, particularly in Mariposa, because the fair is such a critical element in our overall community and culture. And so the fact that we don't have anything other than the liability of operating the fairgrounds, we find that a bit disturbing.
Yeah.
And every now and then we let some of our elected officials know how we feel about it. But the reality is that that doesn't limit us with respect to a commitment to keep this cultural facility. Like the history of the fair goes back longer than 76 years. We've been holding fairs in that community on an ad hoc basis since the early 1860s.
Well, we only got a couple minutes left. Anything else on the fair, or
Well,
any other events going on in Mariposa?
I want to bounce right into one big deal with respect that complements the fair with our Music on the Green. This week, we have some hometown boys that are going to be doing some great music. Our Music on the Green, of course, is a big draw to a lot of people in the valley. It's and you know about that.
Yep.
And of course, it's right at the edge of Old Town Mariposa, between the fairgrounds and Old Town Mariposa. And this week we have the Trespassers. The Trespassers are a really unique group. They actually, the owner of the bar right down the street from me is a member and the organizer of the Trespassers.
Ah.
And another group that we have, Mike Hammer and the Nails.
Ah.
These guys are just absolutely outrageous. They play, of course, at the jazz and blues festivals all over the country, and they're hometown boys
They're
that
from
have
Mariposa area?
really hit it big, and they're amazing musicians, and they'll be playing this Saturday.
And that is
I will let-
the Green, what?
Music on the Green.
Music on the Green, that's every Saturday, right?
Every
it
Saturday
year-round,
and
or-
every Friday and every Saturday.
Every
No, it's
Friday and
just
Saturday.
through the summer months.
Is that at the fairgrounds?
It's
No,
it's in the arts park in town,
Arts Park in town?
in
Okay.
downtown, historic
But
Mariposa.
when you bring your RV into town, you can park at the fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds. So we got a couple things we could do this weekend. Saturday night is a fundraiser, sausages and suds at the fairground.
Yes.
Put on by the Friends of the Fair, is that the
Yes.
name of the organization? And you can stick around and go to Music on the Green on Friday and Saturday night. So spend a whole weekend in Mariposa. Drive your RV, park at the campground.
And by the way, there's a place called Yosemite. It's right up the road.
Yosemite is
Yeah, it's
pretty
kind of
close.
nice right this time of year.
And some people like to go up there.
I like to loop. I go up to Mariposa, loop around through Yosemite, and come back to Fresno. I like to make the whole circle. And there's lots to do on the way. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Mr. Borchert.
Mr.
Bob. Bob Borchert from Mariposa. This has been the Old Town Mariposa segment. Stick around.